Hey, it's Memorial Day at our elevation, and according to the old timers in the area, it's time to plant. Stay tuned. Hello, welcome back to Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. I'm your host, Jerry Hanson. It's Memorial Day, and according to the old timers in our area, it's now time to put things in the garden. Last night we had our last frost of the year, hopefully. I don't know, with this new solar minimum we're going into, don't know what's going on. But I'm going to trust the old timers and go ahead and get this garden bed ready. I've had the tarp over it to kill off the weeds. I took the weed eater and chopped down what weeds were exposed, so we're getting the ground all ready. And yeah, that frost, it came in. I noticed frost on the windshield of the cars. It was 30 degrees out this morning about 6 a.m. And you can see the frost on the grasses. I checked my greenhouse this morning. It was 40 degrees inside, so it was above freezing. And all the plants seem to be doing really good. And these plants have grown quite a bit, so we're going to be able to finally transfer them out to the garden and get them out of the greenhouse and make room for new plants in the greenhouse. And we're also going to start some seeds in the flower beds over here. I got some more soil so we can raise the level of some of these garden beds and get them up to level where I want them. And then that way we can start a good harvest, or actually start a good planting. But as far as the rest of the garden goes, I plan on putting some more black plastic down in this back area. I got 2 more rolls that measure, I think it's 4 mil, measures 10 feet wide by 25 feet long. And this area here that I'll be mulching, yeah, that's right, black plastic is a form of mulching, is 25 by 25, the whole quarter section of the garden. I already have some black plastic, so we'll have some overlap. And then I've got some bales of wood shavings that we're able to put on there to keep the plastic from getting too hot and cooking the ground. But right now we need the ground temperature right around 60 degrees, 60 to 80 degrees. We're going to let the sun warm the ground, and then we're going to plant the seeds, because that warmth in the soil will help germinate those seeds. So that's why it's right now is a time to get planting. I'm going to pull this tarp and the black plastic, and show you guys this method I've been using for years. And that's it's a form of mulching. Instead of wood chips or other forms of mulching, cardboard, you can just lay black plastic tarp over the surface, and that way it covers and keeps the weeds from growing up. So it's a way of not having to weed so much. So let's pull these tarps back and see what we have. Now you can see the contrast where the plastic was covering the material, the organic material, basically was composting down with the help of the enzymes and bacteria that are in the soil. And then you can see the parts that were exposed to the sun, they tended to grow because they got that valuable sunlight to give them that photosynthesis and be green. So this area right here is what I have designated for corn. I'm going to go ahead and try a new concept for growing corn in a small spot with heavy mulching. And the mulching is, of course, the black plastic covered with wood shavings. Now the wood shavings will reflect some of that sunlight to keep the ground from getting too hot, but in the areas where I want the heat, I'm going to cut open those areas and pack in some dirt. Now, this is a no-till, no-weed method. And then after this, I won't ever have to weed this area or till this area again. In the winter months, I just cover it with a tarp, and whatever organic material is in there, be able to turn back into nice carbon and mulch and organic material back into the soil. And all I have to do is go back, peel that tarp again around Memorial Day next year, and replant. So this is an easy way of no-weed garden that I'm developing. I'm also going to try that three-sister crop, which is we'll plant my corn, and then once the corn is grown so high, then I'll plant the beans. And in addition to that, I will be planting squash. So the purpose of the three-sister garden, or the companion garden, is all three items subsist in a symbiotic relationship. So you plant your corn first. This is what the Native Americans did. They dug a hole, they put a fish down in the hole, and then they buried their corn on top of that fish. And as the fish decays, it gives all the nutrients that the corn needs to grow. So once that corn grows, you plant your beans, and the beans will use the corn to climb up on. So the corn stalk provides a habitat for the beans. But the beans, in addition, will feed the corn by fixating the nitrogen or nitrate into the soil that the corn needs to grow. That's where you get the fish from. And it fixates it through the oxygen in the air. Yeah, it's funny how photosynthesis works on those miraculous little leaves. It's like a whole factory. It rearranges molecules. It does. Now, for the squash plants. Squash plants have big leaves which cover the soil, and they serve many purposes. One purpose is it creates a shade over the soil on which weeds can't grow up in the shade. So if a weed seed kind of drifts in, it falls on the leaf, it doesn't get on that fertile soil to be able to germinate. So it also shadows the soil and keeps it from evaporating the moisture out. The moisture stays into the ground longer, so you don't have to water your garden as much. Also, there's another benefit. As you see here in these leaves right here I got growing in my greenhouse, this is a watermelon, and then I have this is a squash. Now notice the leaves, they have little pricklies on them. Yeah, it keeps vermins away, mainly the raccoons that will come in and eat your corn cobs, because with the prickly leaves covering the ground, they won't come into your corn garden, and you maintain a natural pest control using the three sister crop method, or the companion crops. So let me get this mulch spread. I don't have to do anything with this. I'm done. I just peel it back. I'm not going to work the soil. I'm not doing anything with it. I'm just pulling a couple of big tall weeds, and then I'm going to lay my black plastic. So stay tuned for that. Okay, now that I got the garden surface all prepared, I went ahead and turned the sprinklers on it for a couple of hours to get the ground nice and deep, moist, because I want moisture in the ground for what's coming next. Right now, I'm going to lay out my plastic mulch material, and this is so it cuts back my weeding immensely, and also completely eliminates the need to till up the garden from year to year. So let's get that plastic spread out. Now that that's done, I'm going to spread wood shavings or wood chips over the top of it to weight it down, keep it from blowing away, and also it'll keep the sun from destroying the plastic from being directly exposed to the sun, because you know what sunlight does to plastic, anything plastic? Yeah, it destroys it over time and it becomes brittle. And with this wood shavings over the top of it, protects it from the destructive ultraviolet light. It also reflects some of that radiation heat that would otherwise be absorbed by the black and go into the ground and heat the ground temperature up too warm. But we do want warm soil bed for germinating seeds, so we'll touch on that when we get to that point. But right now I've got this pine shaving bales I'm going to go ahead and spread. It'll also keep a stiff wind from airlifting the plastic mulch. Yeah, and it adds more weight, especially when it gets wet. But that's the cover. 3 bales of pine shavings. Looks like I gotta add maybe 4 more bales, and then I gotta get another roll of plastic mulch for over there in that section, and maybe 5 more bales of this, and then another stretch down the middle. 5 more, so 10 more pine bales and 2 more rolls of that plastic will get her done. And then the next step is to partition out where my plants are going to grow. They're going to be evenly spaced in rows, and then I have the drip irrigation to install. We'll do that in a little bit. I also want you guys to understand that down this side of the fence here is going to be some rock, and in that rock, well, we're going to have drip irrigation along there, but I'm planting the special plants that I got as a gift from the 5th grade class that I taught at the local elementary school. I was a guest speaker, and I went down and taught them about heritage breed hogs. They adopted one of my guinea hogs. That was a cute day. And I also plan to put gravel, at least a 2 to 3 foot wide path of gravel all the way around the whole boundary, inside boundary of my garden, as an extra defense against flames, because this metal here is a fire shield from the neighbor's tall grass. If it catches fire, I hope to stop it right here at this fire shield. And then again, if there's any weeds that creeps through, I can have the gravel here that will stop it dead in its path. Plus I'll have my sprinklers going. So that's my fire suppression plan that I'm building into the garden to hopefully eventually create a safe space in the middle of the garden. If we can't evacuate, we can at least bunker here and be safe from the flames and the heat. But God forbid if we ever have to endure that. But yeah, this season they are predicting the worst fire season on record for our region. And right now I've got thunderstorms moving in. I got this much done. I'm gonna cut it for the night. I'm gonna go down buy some more supplies and we'll put them in tomorrow. So I'll be back in a video second. Okay, I just got back from getting more garden supplies, and I think this will finish what I need to get for the garden, and we're going to be planting in the next episode. Actually, no, the next episode I'm going to be putting up the drip irrigation, and then the planting episode. But I got to get my truck unloaded and get things distributed and get the rest of the garden complete. Okay, the mulching is down, and I'm actually using two forms of mulching. There's organic mulching material, which can be leaves, newspapers, cardboard, grass clippings, straw. That could be an organic mulch, even pine bark, sawdust, all organic mulch. And the black plastic is another form of mulching, which it'll keep the moisture in the ground and protect the microbes, keep the ground from drying out, and also saves the watering. Now, at the end of the season, or before next season, I can still pull back the plastic, because the wood shavings just offer a protective coating over the black plastic to keep it weighted down and protect the mulch from the sun, to keep the sun from breaking down the plastic, because that's what happens with your ultraviolet lights, that it breaks down and degrades the plastic after a period of time. So this is going to allow me to create more life, a longer life for this mulch. Now when I come out here and I actually start punching holes in this and creating an area for planting, I just move this away there. Punch a hole right here. The rest of this black is exposed, and the sun will be able to heat the surface up of the soil. You need that heat to germinate seeds, to get them to grow, and this is the time of year you want to do that. So I'm just going to expose each spot for each plant instead of the whole surface, and this will give me a longer life of this black plastic. So I hope that explains my mulching method for the garden. Now, what I'm trying to do is get away from having to till the garden. This is a form of a no-till garden. It's also a kind of a variation between that back to Eden style garden also. So now this is done. The whole part of my garden is done, except for this little area over here. I got to work on that next. But I wanted to get my corn in, my beans in, and some other vegetables in there. And that's what's going to be going out here. But the next stage is I'm going to water this down, and then I'm going to go in and plan my drip irrigation, because I'm going to be laying a drip irrigation throughout. So each spot where I plant a seed, that spot is going to be watered by the irrigation line. I got a bunch of irrigation line from an estate cleanup. So that's something else that I got free. But this costs. This I'm buying from my YouTube revenue, because viewers like you are tuning into my shows and watching the putting up with ads. So that's how I'm able to afford this. So let's get this watered in, and then I'll continue gardening into the next episode. This concludes this episode of Mulching. I'm your host, Jerry Hanson. This is Pine Meadows Hobby Farm. We're a frugal homestead tucked high in the Cascade Ranges of the Pacific Northwest. Please stay tuned to more videos. You could do that by subscribing, then clicking that bell icon, which alerts you to new videos as I upload them. Also, please like my channel by giving me a thumbs up and leave a comment. Also, click that share button down below and share my videos on your social media platforms. That helps us out a lot. Hey, we'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye-bye.